Good morning. This is the third module in the design of FIR filters. So, FIR filter design, and we are doing the design using window method. Using the window method. In the previous module, we saw there was one problem that we faced with the use of rectangular window functions. When we use a rectangular window function to truncate the infinitely long impulse response to a finite duration, we were multiplying it by a window function, the rectangular window function, and that had a constant strength of 1 for minus m to plus m. And when we did this multiplication, we had the design of the FIR filter. We had a finite duration impulse response of length n, length given by 2m plus 1. So this gave us a linear phase FIR filter. But one drawback that we faced with the use of rectangular window function was, suppose I'm designing, say, a low pass filter, say minus, if I consider, say, minus pi to plus pi. Plus pi, this is a mod of h of omega. And say I have my required filter response, and when I design the filter, I get my designed filter in this manner. And there is an overshoot. Interestingly, and so this is for one n. Suppose I increase the n further, the energy, if I consider this as the energy in the ripples, the energy in the ripples keeps decreasing as I increase the order of the filter. So as I increase n, if I increase n, the energy in the ripples decreases. In the ripples decreases. But there is one component that did not decrease, and of course this transition band, the width of the transition band also decreases. The transition band width also decreases. So as I increase n, the filter is improving in many aspects. But there was one aspect it did not decrease, and that was the overshoot. This percentage overshoot continued to remain as 9%, around 9%. 9% of overshoot, we had the actual value being around 1.09. So in percentage, it comes to, we have a 9%, around 9% overshoot. And this is a major drawback of using the rectangular window function, because this overshoot does not decrease no matter how large I make my n. And this is due to the presence of what is known as the Gibbs phenomenon, which occurs whenever we truncate the infinite duration Fourier series. So to overcome that, we have to use other window functions. We use other window functions. The other window functions, for example, we have a large number of window functions. Again, the window functions will be of finite duration that extend from minus m to plus m for n equal to minus m to plus m. But typical window functions are such that their strength increases and it tapers down. It increases as we increase towards the origin, and then it tapers down as we move towards away from the origin. And this is a typical property of any window function. And let us see some standard window function. So instead of multiplying by the rectangular window function, we shall now multiply by some window function. So that is going to avoid the problem of overshoot, and we will get a better response. So sorry, as an example, as one window, we have something known as the generalized Hamming window. The generalized Hamming window. Generalized Hamming window, and that is given by W of n equal to alpha plus 1 minus alpha into cos 2 pi n by n. This is one window, generalized Hamming window, where alpha is normally in the range of 0 to 1. And when I put in this expression, if I put alpha equal to 0.54, we get what is known as the Hamming window. And if I put alpha equal to 0.5, we get the Hanning window. The Hanning window. We have another window function, which is the Bartlett, or also known as the triangular window function. Triangular window function, and this is given by W of n equal to 1 minus n divided by m plus 1. Now again, some books use it as, some references have it as, instead of m plus 1, they keep it as just m. But again, there's a small change, but both are triangular window functions. And if I make instead of n plus 1, if I written as n plus n by m, then at m it is going to become 0. So this is better we have it as 1 minus m plus 1. It's a small change, and especially when the size of when m is large, it doesn't make huge difference in taking it as m or m plus 1. And there's one more window known as the Blackman window function, and here we have W of n given by 0.42 plus 0.5 cos 2 pi n by n plus 0.08 cos 4 pi n by n. So these are some of the example window functions, and there are a large number of, we do have the Kaiser window, and we can refer and use any window. But as an understanding, we'll just try to use some of this window function and see how the design improves. So having seen these window functions, let us try to design the same filter. I mean, design a filter that uses a window function and see if we have the problem of overshoot getting solved, avoided. So now, as a problem, we'll take a numerical example. We consider the aim is to design an FIR low pass filter with the cutoff omega c equal to I have some pi by 4, with the cutoff omega c equal to, design an FIR low pass filter cutting omega c equal to pi by 4, and as usual we shall take a small length to start the problem. So we have n equal to 7. So in the previous module we had done the step 1, and we got the impulse response given by, after doing the integration, we got h of n as omega c by pi sinc n omega c. This is the expression we have, and for n equal to n equal to 0, we know this value, or if I directly write the sequence h of n, hn, we got the value in the previous module as 0.075, then 0.159 and 0.22, 0.25, 0.22, 0.159 and 0.075. This is our impulse response Hn. Now let us use one window function. For example, let us take the Hamming window. Let's take the design using the Hamming window function. So what is W of n in that case? It is given by the expression alpha plus 1 minus alpha cos 2n pi by n. But alpha equal to 0.54. So 0.54 for a Hamming window function plus 0.46 and cos 2n pi by 7. In our case, we have taken n as 7 in the example that we are doing. So let's now evaluate this W of n for different values of, and put n equal to 0. Put n equal to 0, what we get? 0.54 plus 0.46, that becomes a 1. Put n equal to 1 and let us see what we get. Put n equal to 1. So if I put n equal to 0, this is what I get. Put n equal to 1. So I've typed my equation, that is 0.54 plus 1 minus 0.4 cos 2n pi by n. So let me put n equal to 1 and see what is my window coefficient. It becomes 0.826. So it is 0.82, and by symmetry I can retain it I can write plus and minus 1. Next I put n equal to 2. N equal to 2, and what do I get? 0.44. So 0.44, 0.44, and next value, put n equal to 3. And we get it as 0.12 or 0.13. 0.1. So we have the 7 values. So this is how we have computed the window coefficients for the Hamming window. Now to get the actual impulse response of my design filter, of the low pass filter, I need to multiply. I need to multiply a pointwise multiplication, h of n by w of n. So I need to take what's my first value? 0.075 multiplied by 0.13. So let's see how much is that. I have it as 0.009. Next, if I multiply 0.159 by 0.44, I get it as 0.069. And similarly, when I multiply 0.22 by 0.82, I get it as 0.186. Then I have 0.25 multiplied by 1, so that is 0.25. And then 0.186, 0.069, and 0.009. So this is my designed low pass filter. So and then I can implement it. I have my, if I want to get my transfer function h of z, we know I can get it as 0.009 plus 0.069 z inverse plus and so on, and the last term being 0.009 z bar minus 6. So this is our transfer function h of z. I can convert it and get the pole zero plot. I can also have the direct form implementation and the linear phase implementation. All this we know. And we need to now check, compute the frequency response h of omega and see whether our frequency response now does not have the overshoot. And one method of computing the frequency response is by replacing z by e power j omega. So I have e power minus j omega and so on up to 0.009 e to the power of minus 6j omega. This is one way of doing. Another way of doing it is to simply compute an endpoint DFT, not an n, a large value, say 100 point. I just compute 100 point DFT, and then I plot the frequency response, because DFT is nothing but n equally spaced samples of from the periodic h omega. So either way I can compute and see the effect. So now since computing the frequency response manually becomes difficult, let's take the help of MATLAB in doing the same problem and see whether we have the overshoot absent. So now we have the same program, that we had taken yesterday. Omega c is pi by 4. I retain it. My m is 3. So then I'm computing my coefficients, omega c by pi, sine n omega c by n omega c. This is my computation, and I compute the value of h of 0 separately, omega c by pi, and then I flip it to get the first half. Then I have the h of 0 and then the function. So finally I have my impulse response hn of my design filter here. I'm taking a large value of n and trying to compute the FFT, because FFT is easier. Of course, it's a two method. So let's use the FFT method of computing the frequency response of the designed filter. So now I'm just converting my n to omega that goes from 0 to 2 pi. So 0 to n minus 1. This is scaling to just convert our n point DFT to 0 to 2 pi. And then I'm going to have the plot of the magnitude spectrum. And I'm also trying to plot the same impulse response. So I'm running the code and I'm trying to get the plot of my frequency response of the design filter and also plot the impulse response of the design filter. I mean, whatever we had done manually now. So let me run and see. This is our design filter HN. That goes from 0 to 6, and this is after multiplying, and this is my frequency response. So this is I still have the my overshoot, because I have not done the multiplication by the window function. So now I need to multiply by the window function. So let's introduce an additional line that does the multiplication. So now say I let me retain the same, m equal to 3, and say the cutoff is same, and then for multiplying by the Hamming window, we know that it is 0.54 into 1 minus 0.54 cos 2n pi by n, and then I'm computing this hn and then I'm multiplying it by wn, and then otherwise all other program is the same. I'm just taking a large value, computing. I'm having the plot of the magnitude spectrum and the plot of the impulse response. I'm also including the plot of the window function, that window minus m2 plus m, whatever we are computing. So let's run and now see the program after when I multiply it by the window function. So this is my window function. As I told you, this is the Hamming window function, and which is symmetric, which has a maximum value of 1 at 0, and it tapers down as we increase m. And so after multiplying, what is my design impulse response? If I want to see the values, as we saw, it's 0.009, 0.069, 0.18, 0.25. It's symmetric. This is my design filter. Now let us see how is my frequency response. Look at the frequency response. I do not have the ripples. When I've introduced the window, now my ripples are gone, and there is no overshoot. Of course, we have just taken a very small length of 7. So it's not having overshoot, it's also having an undershoot. So it's not a good design. So let's increase the length of the filter a little higher and see whether we still have the same benefit or not. So now let me, instead of making it say a filter of length 7, let me make it a filter of length 11. So I'm changing my M to 5. So length of the filter now becomes 11. So now when I run the program, let us see what happens. See, now my same window function, please remember. So now because I made my length as 11, so now my window coefficients go from -5 to +5. Once again, it tapers. So it starts from a lower value, goes to the reaches, and it goes to 1 in the center. So this is my window function. And when I multiplied my impulse response with the window function, this is what I'm getting. The values are all getting reduced slightly. So as they go towards the end, and this is my design frequency response. Frequency response of my design filter. See, there are two advantages. There is no overshoot. Of course, this is better than the earlier design where we had a length of 7. Now it is, instead of 0.8, it is going closer to 1. There are no ripples and there is no overshoot. So immediate advantage that we saw because of multiplying the by a window function. Let me take a much larger value of window. Length of the sequence. I'm putting my M equal to 20. So in this case, my length of the filter is going to become 41. Let me run the program and see how is it now. So this is my window function, the Hamming window function of length 41, going from -20 to +20. See how beautifully it starts from a lower value and reaches maximum value being 1. And when I multiply, now this is my impulse response of length 41 that goes from 0 to 40. This is the impulse response, which is again always symmetric. FIR filter has an even symmetry in the coefficients Hn. And see my beautiful filter. Now I wanted a low pass filter with a cutoff of pi/4. It's at 1. The maximum value is at 1, and there are no overshoots, no undershoots. The problem that we face with the rectangular window function is solved, it's addressed. So this is our observation, and it's so interesting. By just multiplying by a simple window function, we are able to get the desired frequency response. So now just let us record our observations. So what happens? Use of window function. We just saw use of the Hamming window. Use of the Hamming window function. We will repeat it for other window functions. Use of the Hamming window function. What we saw is, one is there is no overshoot. This is one big advantage which we have solved by simple multiplication by a suitable window function instead of simple abruptly truncating the rectangle and use of the rectangular window function. And also there are no ripples. And what's one more observation? If I set my filter length, when I get my length of the filter n equal to 7, it was not that good design. N equal to 11 was slightly better than n equal to 7, but not so good. But when I used a length of say 41, n equal to 41, I have a very nice representation of my filter. So what we conclude is, FIR filters usually require a large length n. What is large? That is very subjective, but definitely not 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 FIR filters or small lengths are not going to give us a good design, and we definitely need to go for large length filters. Let us see the same program. If I increase my filter length further, say I make it at 30, M equal to 30, so my length of the filter is now going to be 61. And let us look at the filter. We have used a Hamming window. See, this is my window function that goes from -30 to +30. This is my impulse response of the design filter, which has 61 coefficients, and this is the frequency response of my design filter. Just for comparison, let us say I do not put the window function. Let me just mask this line so that I don't put the window function, and let us see how is the response, just to know what is the advantage we have got by introducing the Hamming window function. See, this is my rectangular window. start with a smaller length. Let us say we take a length of, okay, let's retain the same length and let's run the program and see how is the response. See, now it's triangular. We know why it's given the name as a triangular window function, because the window is just a triangle, that taper that goes from -m to +m and reaches the maximum value of 1. So it gets the name as a triangular window function, also known as the Bartlett window function. And this is my impulse response of the design filter. And let us look at the frequency response. So it's good, but not so good as compared to the Hamming window, because in Hamming window we had this almost close to 1 and it was also flat. But here what we are saying is there is a small tapering. It is not exactly flat, but of course we have used a very simple function, because I mean, instead of using a rectangular function, I use a triangular window function, and hence this is not as good as the Hamming window function by observation. Of course, a better method of comparing would be to compute the mean square error between the desired and the designed frequency response. So let's take one more. I'm retaining the same length as 61, because as I mentioned, FIR filters are usually of large length. So instead of Bartlett window, let us say what happens if I use the Hamming window. So let me use the Hamming window. Hamming window, we said the function is 0.5 plus 1 minus 0.5. Let's run the program and see what happens when I use a Hamming window. This is my Hamming window function. And this is the impulse response of the design filter. And this is the response. So it's very close, very similar, but there's a very small overshoot, if I may call, when I use the Hamming window. Now let's take the other window. Let's take the Blackman window, which is given by this expression. And let us see when I use the Blackman window, what happens. So we have 0.42 plus 0.5, and I'm just computing 1 to m in the loop, and afterwards I flip it and I put the value at the central value. So let me run. This is my Blackman window. Once again, it's a beautiful that starts off almost from 0 and goes to 1. And this is my impulse response of the design filter after multiplying by the window function, and this is the frequency response of the design filter. So this example was just to show what happens when we introduce the window function. So then we are all convinced from the above examples that we need to use any window function. We need to use any window function. It could be the Hamming, the Blackman, or the Bartlett window. Any window function is definitely going to be performing better than the rectangular window function. And because it solves the overshoot problem, there are no ripples in the design filter, and typical length of the filter is usually large. Now, having seen that, let's take one more example, the high pass filter. But before that, let's make one more observation, which is, since we have the code ready, let us just see, I mean, no computation, no calculation. Let us also look at the pole zero plot. Pole zero plot of the FIR filter. It could be any window function. There will be small change in the location of the zeros, but let's see how is the pole zero plot of FIR filter. So let's so I have the same program. So now I just have my let me put the pole zero plot. So I'll just introduce so I'm having the design filter HN, and I'm going to look at the pole zero plot. Maybe I don't have to, I have the window function, I have the impulse response, I return everything, but I also have just some number, just to ensure that I don't have the same number for the figure. So now what I want to study is, let me first take up the rectangular window. So I will not use any window function. So I will mask all my window functions. So I'm having my rectangular window, and let me retain my same cutoff frequency of my filter as a pi by 4. let me take the length as say small. So say length of filter of length, say 11. So M is 5, so N becomes 11. So let me run the program and then see. My focus now is to see the pole zero plot. How is my pole zero plot? I have chosen my length of my filter as 11 and my cutoff frequency is around pi by 4. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, four zeros here occurring in complex pairs. So I have 8 and then the two 10s, and I have 10 poles in the origin. So this is how my pole zero plot is for the filter length being 11. So now let me make it as say 10. So I'm going to have 21 coefficient. My impulse response is going to be of length 21, and now let us see how my poles and zeros are located. See, so now I have these are my zeros, and in addition I have some 4 zeros located here. Where is my cutoff frequency? Cutoff frequency somewhere here. So I have 21 coefficients, so there are going to be 20 zeros and 20 poles. All the poles are at the origin, and I have all my zeros, most of my zeros located on the unit circle, and very few zeros located in this region. So now let me make it as say 20. So I'm going to run the program and see how are my poles and zeros located for low pass filter of length 41. This we'll ignore this example. Let me make it as say 22. So I have 45 coefficients. So when I have 45 coefficients, what happens? This is how my poles, my zeros are located. Most of the zeros on the unit circle. We have few zeros located around, and here is my cutoff. So now let me change the cutoff. Let me change the cutoff frequency. Since my focus is on is only on the pole zero plot, I think I will not try to observe the other plots. So let me just mask them. And let me look at only the pole zero plot, because we have already seen the performance of the impulse response, etc. So now instead of having, let me run the program again. I'm having a filter of length 45. So 22, M is 22, filter of length 45, a low pass filter with a cutoff of pi by 4. And when I run, this is my pole zero plot. See, most of the zeros on the unit circle and few zeros on the right half. By looking, I can make out that my and this is my cutoff frequency pi by 4. So let me change my cutoff frequency now. Let me change my cutoff frequency to say pi by, instead of 0.25 pi by 4 is nothing but 0.25. Let me make it as say 0.4 times pi. So instead of 0.25 pi, I'm changing my cutoff frequency to 0.4 pi. Let me run the program now. See what has happened now. So by looking at the figure, I can tell that this is my cutoff frequency has gone has increased, and hence this is my 0.5 pi. So this is my 0.4 pi. So this is my pole zero plot. Let me increase it further. My low pass filter of say 0.5 pi. So I have my cutoff larger than pi by 2, and let us see what happens to the pole zero plot. So do we see? This is my 0 to 0.55 pi. This is my pass band, and this is my stop band. In the stop band, all these zeros are on the unit circle, and in the pass band, we have them appearing as above, outside, and inside the unit circle. If I change my cutoff frequency of my low pass filter to say 0.75 pi, a low pass filter which is going to have in this manner, this is my 0.7 pi, this is my pole zero plot. So the question is, can I look at the pole zero plot and tell the cutoff frequency of the filter? And the answer is yes. So if I want to have a look in this case at the other plots as well, say I want to see in this case the other. So now this is my pole zero plot which we just saw, and this is my rectangular window function, and this is my impulse response of the design filter, and this is my low pass filter which has a cutoff of 0.755. So you see this, it is now I have not used any window function, but suppose I use a window function. So let me put a Hamming window. The same program, if I run it with the window function, and this is the pole zero plot, a small change in the location because of the introducing of the window function, and this is my the impulse response of the design filter, and this is my frequency response. So the low pass filter with the cutoff of 0.755. So this completes the design of a low pass filter. And now let's take up one example in the high pass filter. So we have seen how the zeros are located, or more on the zeros in the stop band are all in the on the unit circle, and otherwise outside and inside the unit circle. Now just to have a look at how we can relate the pole zero plot to the pass band and the stop band of the filter. So now let's take up a new example. So we have seen the design of an FIR filter using the window function, and we also saw the need of using some window function and not the rectangular window. So let's take another example. Let's take a new example now. Say we want to design the problem statement is design a high pass filter, an FIR filter using windows. So we'll try with all the windows, the rectangular window, and then Hamming and Hanning window, and with a cutoff of say 0.755. 0.755. So this is the problem statement to design a high pass filter of length and of length say 7. We retain a small length purely for computational simplicity and for demonstrating the concept. But as I mentioned, a practical implementation of an FIR filter usually of large length 40, 50, 60, etc. or even higher. So now here we have our frequency specifications. If I try to plot the magnitude response, of my required specifications, it's periodic in the interval pi to 0 to 2 pi or minus pi to plus pi. For a high pass filter, I prefer taking it in the range 0 to 2 pi. And for low pass filter, I take from minus pi to pi simply because I find it convenient to integrate in that manner. No other reason. And since we have the liberty of choosing any continuous interval of 2 pi. So now we know that pi corresponds to infinity. So even though it's given that specification is given as 0.75 pi, we know that, and because of symmetry, we know for a discrete time in the spectrum, the pi actually corresponds to a very large frequency. So the cutoff frequency is given as 0.755 pi. And this is what is given, 0.75. And even though by symmetry, by our knowledge, we know that it is going to extend up to, so this is 0.75, so this has a width of 0.2 pi. So I need to add another 0.2 pi, so it goes from by symmetry, because I have this width as 0.25. So this is 0.25 pi, and hence I need to ensure that this width is also 0.25 pi. So this is my desired frequency specifications. A high pass filter with the cutoff of 0.7 pi for 0.75 pi. A cutoff of 0.75 pi. Only this is given. Omega c is equal to 0.75 pi. This is what is given. And for this, we need to design the filter. So now let's do the first step. And what's the first step? The first step is to evaluate the integral h of n for one period, so 1 by 2 pi. And now I can identify, I need to integrate from 0.75 pi to 1.25 pi. So I can always write this as pi minus 0.25 pi And this I can write, the upper limit I can write it as pi plus 0.25 pi. And my magnitude is say 1 and e to the power of j omega n d omega. Now when I integrate this, I am going to get it as 1 by 2 pi. In the first module we have done it, so we get it as minus. Okay, let's do few steps. Say e to the power of j omega n divided by jn for pi minus 0.25 pi to pi plus 0.25 pi. And this will become, I can write it as e to the power of j n pi into e to the power of 0.25 pi j minus e to the power of minus j 0.25 pi divided by 2j, and then I have my n pi. So this now becomes e power j n pi will become minus 1 to the power of n, and then this quantity we can recognize it as sine n omega c, because my omega c is say 0.25 pi. I mean, yeah, okay, I will, yes, where omega, I will not call it as omega c, I will call it as say omega a, where omega a is pi by 4. And then I have an n, so I make it as n omega a, and then this will become omega a by. So I multiply and divide. I have an n, so n goes within the bracket. I had a pi, so I multiply and so I multiplied and divide. I have the pi remaining. I multiply and divide by omega a because I want to convert it to a sinc function. So now I have it as minus 1 to the power of n omega a by pi sinc n omega a. And what is omega a? Omega a is pi by 4. And what is pi by 4? My actual omega c is minus omega c. So my omega c, the cutoff frequency was given as 0.75 pi. So my cutoff frequency omega c is given as 0.75 pi, and hence my omega a now becomes pi minus 0.75, that is nothing but 0.25 pi. So this is what I have, and now I can compute the value. So now I am given that n equal to 7. So let's evaluate this integral, this value for different values of n. So what happens now? Hn, if I compute, I put n equal to 0. N equal to 0, what does it give me? Omega a is nothing but 0.25 pi. So pi gets cancelled. I have a 0.25, and then minus 1 to the power of 0. So that becomes a 0.25. So I have my value as 0.25, my value in the middle. And then put n equal to 1. Put n equal to 1, then I'm going to evaluate this, and this will this is omega a is 0.25 pi, and then sec n omega a by pi, and then I compute it. So we know this is going to give me 0.22 because we have retained the same value, so we know the numbers. So 0.22, but I have a minus 1 to the power of 1, so it becomes minus 0.22 and minus 0.22. And the next value was 0.59, 0.159, and 0.15159. And the next value is minus minus 0.075 and minus 0.075. So this is how we have our impulse response as the first step. Computing, the first step was to compute the integral and then evaluate the function. Next step, step 2 would be to multiply it by the window function. And let us say we use the Hamming window. Say we use the Hamming window function, which is given by alpha plus 1 minus alpha cos 2n pi by n. And in this case, for a Hamming window, this is 0.54 plus 1 minus 0.54, that is 0.6 cos 2n pi by 7. By 7, and that gives me, when I compute this, Wn is going to be same as, because low pass or high pass filter, the window function does not change. So we have the central value as 1, and then I have it as 0.82, then 0.43 and 0.12. And by symmetry, it's going to be 0.82, then 0.43, 0.43 and 0.12. Then I need to multiply. So after multiplying by the, now I have my high pass filter coefficients as, I need to multiply, and what I have is 0.25, the central value multiplied. And the next value is minus 0.186. The next value is plus 0.069 and a minus 0.009. And by symmetry, this becomes 0.186 minus and plus 0.069 and a minus 0.09. So we will see how this filter is. Yes, so let us see the high pass filter that we have designed for a cutoff of 0.75 pi. So let's have a look at the program. So I have my length of my filter as, say, only 3. So that is m is 3, so n is 7. And my omega c is actually 0.25 pi, because my high pass cutoff is 0.75 pi. But for low pass, it becomes pi minus 0.75 pi, that is 0.25 pi. And then I need to, after computing my, let me initially do without a window, with the rectangular window, and then let me try with other window functions, and then I need to multiply my alternate terms by -1. So I will include this multiplication by -1. So n going from 1 to m, and alternate terms be getting, so we had e power minus j n pi as the term. So we will introduce this. So let's run the program and look at the result. So this is my high pass filter. Let us look at the pole zero plot. So now it's a high pass filter, and I have all my zeros on the right side, and this is my cutoff 0.75 pi. If I look here, this is my pass band. Here I have the pass band, and these are the zeros of the high pass filter. The pole zero plot, the observation of the pole zero plot. And what's my window function? I'm using a rectangular window function initially to start off. So this is my window function. And this is my impulse response of the high pass filter. Let us see. So we have alternate terms being positive and negative, the same value, same coefficients, but alternate terms becoming negative converts a low pass filter to a high pass filter. We have seen that. And this is the frequency response of the design filter. Let me look at the coefficients Hn of my design filter. This is what I have. So I had some problem with that writing pad, so it was not so clear. So we have the impulse response of the design filter minus 0.075, 0.159, minus 0.22, 0.25, 0.225, and then this and minus 0.3. Again, even symmetry in the coefficients. And the impulse response we have seen. And this is a rectangular window function. Now let me just repeat the same function with same filter design. Let me use a Hamming window. Now with the Hamming window, let us see what happens to the filter design. So these are the change in the pole zero plot. So let's not discuss about that. And this is my impulse response. This is my window function. The window function, as I mentioned, does not change whether the filter is a low pass, high pass, band pass. The window functions remain same, and it only depends on the length of the filter. The window coefficients do not change with the filter bandwidth. And this is my FIR filter. Once again, positive, negative, but the values have got multiplied by the window function, and hence the impulse response coefficients are slightly different. And this is my frequency response. So there is no overshoot. There is no overshoot, and there are no ripples as we had seen earlier. And this is my high pass filter frequency response with the Hamming window function. So now, having seen that, let us look at my window coefficient, my impulse response of the design filter. This is my impulse response of the design filter, minus 0.009, then plus 0.69, minus 0.186, 0.25, etc. Same, if I don't multiply it by the by alternate terms being positive, negative, then I have a low pass filter. So now let me change in having seen that. Now let us take a higher length. Let us take 5. So now m is equal to 5 implies my filter is going to be of length 11. So the pole zero plot, see we have all the zeros on the right hand side. So looking at the pole zero plot, we can identify it as a high pass filter. And this is my window function for length 11. And this is my impulse response of the design filter. This is the required design. This is the filter design which is completed by identifying the impulse response coefficients. And this is my frequency response of the design filter. Now let me increase the length further, and let us say I make the length as say 51. So I choose m as 25. So I have a large length of filter. Let us see the high pass filter. And we have used a Hamming window. Now look at this. Look at the pole zero plot. We have used the Hamming window. We have all the zeros on the right half on the unit circle, and in the pass band. This is my pass band. In the pass band, the zeros are inside and outside the unit circle. Whereas in the stop band, we have all the zeros on the unit circle. And this is my transition band, my cutoff frequency of the filter. This is my window function, the Hamming window function. Doesn't change whether it's a low pass or a high pass filter. And my impulse response of the design filter, alternate terms being positive and negative. And this is my frequency response of the high pass filter. Very good. No ripples. I have my cutoff as pi by 0.75 pi, and narrow transition band, and a good frequency response. So we are satisfied with the design filter because the frequency response is very closely meeting the desired specifications. Of course, we cannot have a sharp transition because it will be a non-causal system. So now let me just run the same and see if I do not multiply it by the alternate terms being negative. So I'm going to say if I retain the low pass filter. Let us see now what happens. Look at the pole zero plot. I have the same cutoff. I have all in the this is my stop band and this is my pass band. In the pass band, the zeros are within and outside the unit circle. They appear as complex conjugate pairs. I mean, of course, this is a pair and this is inside the unit circle and outside the unit circle. Whereas here in the stop band, all the zeros are on the unit circle, and this is my transition band. In the transition band, I have here I can say the cutoff frequency of my filter is in this band. So this is the window function. This is my impulse response, the sinc function. as we had sinc function multiplied with the having window function. And this is my low pass filter, the low pass filter, the frequency response of the design filter. Enough in case, let us continue with the high pass filter. So I retain this line which multiplies, and let me just change my window function. Say let me try with the Blackman window function, and say same length, and let's run the filter. So high pass filter of length 51, and with the window function that we are using is the Blackman window. So see, it's a high pass filter. So in the stop band, all these zeros on the unit circle. This is my pass band. In the pass band, we have within and outside the unit circle the zeros. And here is my transition band. The Blackman window coefficients. This is my high pass filter because this is sinc function only, but with alternate terms being negative. And this is the frequency response of the design filter. We have now seen two examples. We have seen the low pass filter design, and we have also seen the high pass filter. And of course, we can do the design for any other filter. For manual implementation, we used a small length as 7. But a practical implementation of a filter, of an FIR filter that has to closely approximate the desired response is going to be large. And large could be say 51, say 61. So N has to be large for a reasonable representation of the filter. So with this, we conclude the design of FIR filters using window functions. In the next class, in the next module, we shall see the FIR filter design. So the next module. So in the next module, what we shall see is, we shall see another method of designing FIR filters, and that is using the frequency sampling method. The frequency sampling method. The frequency sampling method overcomes a drawback that is present in the window method. If you look at what is the drawback in the window method, we need to integrate. Our window method is perfect as far as implementation, computing the coefficient, everything is fine. But there's a small drawback, and that is we need to compute this integral. And once I compute the integral because for simplicity we have taken low pass and high pass filter. Maybe in a real implementation we may require other type of frequency response. So we are given h of omega and we need to compute hn. In the window method of design, this integration needs to be evaluated, and once I evaluate the integral, I can convert it to a code and implement in the processor to compute the coefficients. So this step is avoided, and in the frequency sampling method, given h omega, I can directly get the coefficients hn. So this method we shall see in the next module, which will be a frequency sampling method of FIR filter design. Thank you.